Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make a fun center step card with a little bit of a twist. We're going to adjust the dimensions a little bit to accommodate our images. So let's go ahead and get started. So for images today, I'm going to be using the Pack Your Bag set from Art Impressions, and you can see how cute this is. You get all of the images that you need to create this little scene. And you also get quite a few coordinating sentiments as well. For paper, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I've placed that in my Misty stamp positioner, and I'm using my Versafine Onyx black ink to do my stamping. This is a permanent ink. So I'll just press that out. And now that we have all of those little images stamped, I'm going to start my coloring, and I'm going to start with yellow and orange. I'm going to do the little flowers on his Hawaiian shirt, and I'm placing the yellow around the outside of the flower and the orange in the center, and then I'll just use my blender pen to pull that color out towards the edges, keeping those centers the darkest. Now I've switched to my light gray, and I'm going to add a few shadows in his shirt here. I'm listing all the colors as we go along up in the upper left-hand corner there. And these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and they're a water-based pen. And you can blend these with water as well, but I'm using the blender pen to do my blending. To clean it off, you just want to scribble it onto your scrap paper, and once it goes clear, you know you're good to switch to your next color. So I wanted to keep his pants white. I'm just adding a few shadows, and for the socks as well. I'm going to do her pants. I was going to keep them white, but later on you'll see that I had a little smudge, so I had to cover that. And so I went over it with a little bit of black and added some shadows, and I'll show you that at the end. So don't worry if you have a little smudge or a mistake. We can always correct that. So I just adjusted for it by changing the color of her pants. Now I'm switching to the flesh color for the face, and I did use that sugared almond pink on the cheeks. And I also wanted to let you know that all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. So I'm going to do her arms here, just adding a little shadow kind of on the underneath of the arm there, and just doing some light blending. Doing the same thing here on her legs. So I'll do the same thing for him. So let's switch back to that yellow again and add some little flowers to her shirt. So for colors, I'm kind of sticking to the yellows, oranges, kind of a turquoise green, and a little bit of brown. So I'm kind of stick in that palette as much as I can. I'm adding a little bit of that turquoise green here to her purse and to the leaves on her shirt. And then I'll do that same color with her hat. And later on, we'll add a few little polka dots to that hat as well, just for a little bit of interest. So keep in mind, you can add some details after you do your coloring with your gel pens. You could do some little black dots or some white dots, or any color you have of the gel pens would be fun. And then with light blue and cobalt blue, I'll go ahead and color in some of the bags here. Again, I'm trying to stay in this palette that I laid out just to keep all the colors consistent. We'll be doing the sky in some oranges and yellows, and then we'll be doing the little dock in the brown. So again, I'm just trying to keep those colors in mind as I'm going along here. So for this, I'm adding the color down towards the bottom, and then I'm pulling it up towards the top. And that's the gray brown. And then I'll use a little bit of that color on this bag as well. So now we're going to be creating a center step card, and we're going to be adding a little bit of a twist to it, as I said earlier, because the little guy here is wider than the woman, and I wanted one on each side of the card. So to accommodate for the guy with all the bags and packages and everything, I thought I would widen up the left side of the center step. So it's not really in the center, but it is basically the same design. I'll give you all the measurements and all the dimensions to create this variation, which if you have other images that you want to adjust for, you can certainly do that as well. So once you kind of learn the technique, you'll be able to adjust any images to create this card design. So I've been using the beige and the mid brown to color in these brown items here. And then I decided to make that little pocket in the turquoise color. So I'll go to the black to do the flip-flops. And I'll also use that black on the camera. Let's go again with the black onto his hat. And I'm going to keep the center of the hat the lightest. So I'm putting the color on each side and then pulling in towards the center. And then I'll just add a little bit of that blue color along that band on the hat. Now for the tickets, I'm adding a little color to the right hand corner and then I'm just pulling it over. But you'll see that I don't end up using both of these tickets, just the one. And I don't end up using this airplane either. I did color it in with a little bit of gray, but I'll show you what I was thinking later on, but I decided not to include that little airplane. Now I'm going back to my same colors that we used before to color in the cruise ship. And I'll add some shadows to the front of that cruise ship and just kind of pull in towards the middle here. Now we're going to be cutting these out. There are no dies included with this set, so we're going to be using our detail scissors to cut these out. Again, I'm adding a little bit more yellow to her hair, and then I'll add a little beige for the shadowing on the hair. And now let me finish coloring the rest of these little suitcases. And again, I'm just kind of mixing and matching those same colors that we've already been using. I did that off camera. And now I'm going to cut these out, again, just going right around the edges, not being real fussy, leaving that little white border. So I'm going to do that for all of these. So I did the rest of those off camera, and you can see I have everything cut. So to create the center step card, we need a piece of cardstock that measures 5.5 by 8.5. I'm lining it up on my paper trimmer at the 1-inch mark. So that's the first thing we want to do. Then I'm going to cut from 1 1/4 inches up to 6 1/4 inch. And I'm just using that cutting blade, and you can see where that little pointer is where the blade is. So now I'll move that into the 3 1/4 inch mark, and I'll do the exact same thing. I'm going from the 1 1/4 inch up to the 6 1/4 inch. And that gives me those two slits in the paper there, and they're identical. So now I'm putting the scoring blade into my cutter, and I'm going to score from that first cut line to the second cut line, which is at the 1 1/4 inch mark. So I'll line up the paper at the 1 1/4 inch. I'll drop my scoring blade using that little pointer there all the way to the next cut line. So I'll go all the way to that cut line, and then I'll slide the paper down, and now I'm going to place it at the 2-inch mark. So I'm going to follow that same technique, scoring it from cut line to cut line. Now I'm going to the 3-inch mark, and I'll do the exact same thing. Now, when I move it this next time, I'm at the 4¼ inch mark, which is the halfway point of our paper. So I'm going to score it all the way across because that's going to be the fold in our card. Now let's slide it down one more time and we'll score at that 6¼ inch mark. So that's our final score. And again, that's the end of the cut line. So we're going to score from cut line to cut line. So now we have all the cuts and scores that we need. So you can see that that leaves a 1-inch panel on the right side and a 2-inch panel on the left side. So that's going to accommodate our images perfectly. So you can adjust this center step card to any dimensions you need to accommodate. So I'll fold it first on that 4¼ inch line. I'll fold it all the way across. That just makes it easier. Now this piece, this center piece is going to go in. So I'll do peaks and valleys all the way across here. So now I'm going to make that a valley. And now I need another peak. So I'm going to fold that piece up. It's sort of a fan fold here. So peaks and valleys all the way to the front of the card. And I hope that makes sense, but you'll see here once I press these out with my bone folder what this looks like. And you do want to press that out well with your bone folder. You want a nice crisp fold there. So you can see how simple that is. And now you can see we have that 2-inch border on the left and that 1-inch border on the right. Going back in, now that everything's all set, and pressing out those folds one more time. So you can get a good look at what that looks like from the side as well. So now I want to mask off part of the card here because I want to do my sky. So I'm just using a piece of scrap paper here. You could certainly use some purple tape here, but I'm going to just use that paper to mask off that center panel there. And then I'll use my purple tape to go across the card right at that 4¼ inch score mark, just so I don't get any ink on the back side of my card. So working on the front side here, I've masked everything off, and I'm going to color from the bottom up with Festive Berries, Abandoned Coral, and Mustard Seed. These are the Distress Oxide inks from Tim Holtz. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with the Festive Berries. I'm using my foam applicator tool, and I'm just pointing there that I don't need to go all the way to the bottom. We're going to have the dock there, the wooden dock there at the bottom of that opening. So I just need to start there and work my way up. So I'll blend my colors together here. I'm going to the next color, which is the Abandoned Coral. And I'll blend those two together a little bit here. And then my last color will be the Mustard Seed. And these blend together beautifully. I love this combination. That Festive Berries just adds a nice shadow down at the bottom here. And then I'm using that Mustard Seed and I'm going over everything just to blend it all together and to bring a little bit of that yellow down into those other two colors. So now I can remove that purple tape. And now you can see that we have the sky all set. So let's do the water. So that's going to be in that very back section of the card. So I'm going to mask off everything else. I'll mask off the front of the card here. And that'll be right along that score line at 4¼ which goes all the way across. And then I can mask off the rest of this area here. So I'm going right along the cut lines and then across that back fold. Now I'll use Peacock Feathers and Salty Ocean. I'm going to start with that Salty Ocean and I do the same thing I did before, starting with that darker color down towards the bottom, and then I'll blend it up towards the top. And it is a little easier if you work from the bottom up, kind of push that ink up into the cardstock. And then I'll go back and blend that out. So now I can again remove the purple tape So now we have all of that background coloring done. So let's take some Lawn Fawn Vanilla Malt cardstock. This is just kind of a really pretty creamy color. And now I've got two pieces of cardstock at 2¼ inch by 1 inch and 5½ inches by 1¼ inch. So I'm going to do some embossing on these, and I'm using the Sizzix 3D Texture Fades embossing folder. This one is called Lumber, and this is from the Tim Holtz collection. And you can see it's going to give us all kinds of dimension. And I'm going to use this to create the little dock that our vacationers are standing on. And I'm just going to put this one right along one of those panels of lumber here. And I'll do the same for the other one. And I'm just looking for some areas here that have a nice wood grain texture. So once I have those in place, I can run those through the die cutting machine. And I've got my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and I like to use 2 pieces of cardboard just from some old notepads that I had. But you can adjust your sandwich whatever way you need it to be. I do recommend following the instructions for your specific machine, but this is what works for me. And if it's too tight, don't run it through. Just back it out and take off a piece of cardstock or a piece of cardboard and start over. You don't want to force it through your machine. So I've got some brushed corduroy Distress Oxide ink, and let's do some quick blending here. I'm just going to add that lighter color, and then I'm coming in with the walnut stain, and I'm going to add a few shadows here, kind of following along the kind of the knots in the wood and some of the little textured areas of the wood, just to add a few shadows. Then I'll go back to that brush corduroy and blend that whole thing out. I'm going to do the same thing for that little piece here as well. So we can go ahead and attach those to the card. And I'm using some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I'm placing this down at the bottom here. Again, that's going to create the little dock. And then I wanted that dock to look like it extended out into the water there. So this one is going to go into that next little section here right behind it. And it'll fit right in there. And when the card is standing upright, you'll see that it kind of looks like that dock extends out into the water. So I'm grabbing my white gel pen and I'm just going to add a few little white highlights to everything here. Now you can see you have all these really cute sentiments that go really well with this scene. But I'm going to grab that one that says "Live Life on Cruise Control." I thought that'd be good either for a birthday card or even a retirement card would be really kind of fun. And a going away card if someone was going on vacation. So I thought this kind of keeps it generic. You guys know, having watched enough of my videos, that I like to keep my cards pretty generic when I'm not sure what I'm going to be using it for. And then I can just grab it and stamp the sentiment on the card when I'm ready to go. So for this particular card, you can sign the back of the card or stamp another sentiment back there just to finish it off. So now let's go ahead and stamp that with the Versafine Onyx black ink. And now you can see my little guy is going to fit on front. He will hang over that edge a little bit, so I want to make sure I don't put any adhesive down that right side of him. So I'm using the Scotch foam mounting tape. I'm going to pop him up. And I've made sure not to put any adhesive there on that right hand side. And it will lay flat. Don't worry, it's going to lay nice and flat against that little opening there, as long as you don't put any adhesive there. And I'm doing the same thing for this little lady as well. So I'll put plenty of foam mounting tape here and I'll pop her up. So let's go ahead and add these little bags. And I'm going to first add the cruise ship because I wasn't exactly sure where I needed those bags to be. I'm going to center that cruise ship. And then now I can figure out exactly where I need that little pile of luggage to be. So I'm kind of putting it off to the right-hand side, just a little bit there. And on the cruise ship and the stack of luggage, you want to only put glue down towards the bottom of your images. You don't want any glue up towards the top because you don't want it to stick together when the card is closed. Now, here's where I have those little tickets, and I couldn't exactly figure out where I wanted them to go. So I did in the end decide just to use this one here, and I'm going to cut it down so it looks like she's holding the ticket, but I didn't want it to cover her completely. So I'll finish off that cut edge with a little bit of black ink so it looks like it was stamped this way. And then I'm going to cut off a little bit of the excess on that ticket. And now I want her to hold that in her hand. So I'll need to cut a little slit there between her thumb and her first finger there. And I'm just going with my scissors and just cutting a little slit there so that I can slide that ticket in, and it'll look more like she's holding on to that ticket. So I'll just go ahead and glue that in place. So don't be afraid to cut up your images and adjust them to what you need them to be. It's no problem. It's kind of fun to do, to think of different creative ways you can use your images. And again, I did opt not to use that other ticket at all. Now, I decided to add that little lifesaver here. I kind of thought it just needed a little bit of something there on the left-hand side. And here's where I played around with that airplane. I was going to put it on some acetate and have it look like it was flying at the very top there, but it was just too much. I just decided to set that aside, but you certainly could do that. Now I've got my Wink of Stella glitter gloss pen, and I'm going to add some sparkle to all these different little items here, just for a little bit more interest. So let's take a quick look at the finished card, and you can see how much fun this is. This is just so dimensional. And like I say, this set is perfect for creating a little scene like this. Now, there you can maybe see there's a little smudge on her pants, and that's what I was trying to cover. So I added a little bit of black there and just blended it out so that you really can't notice it too much. I just didn't want to start over. So I hope I inspired you to give this a try. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.